Celebrating the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life with Sterling Fox on AM 650.
Welcome back to the program. Our guests in studio from Integrative Naturopathic Medical Center really like our Boomer Life music. Dr. Eric Posen kind of grooving to it here in the studio, along with his partner, co-founder, Dr. Larry Chan. Dr. Hal Brown, unable to be with us today, but Dr. Larry Chan says right here on this book, North America's top doctors share secrets to aid anti-aging and wellness. And Dr. Larry Chan, picture right there on the front row with the top doctors in North America. So I guess with that kind of intro, Dr. Chan, we should ask you first about how we age, how we become ill, and how we heal. Oh, wise one, tell us all about it. And I'm sure Dr. Posen will chime in at will.
I've been waiting for this moment, Sterling.
I can tell.
Basically, we start off with, there's an old saying that we're born alkaline and we die acidic. So the whole process of aging is really the breakdown of the cells from being alkaline in nature and acidic. And acidic is really the end point where we have an accumulation of toxins and our body's breaking down with lots of inflammation and then disease and degenerative diseases occurring at that time. And, another one is also we talk about the fact that genes really represent a big part of how we age as well.
Okay.
And we heard about, persons predisposed for this kind of disease or
Sure.
that kind of disease.
Yeah.
Well, genes really is like the loaded gun. We're born with certain things.
Right.
But how we age and how we express that is the environment and how we interact with the environment. And that's a key thing as well, because we're not stuck with just the genes and we're going to have that future no matter what happens. It's what we do in between as we live life through that process.
But back to your original metaphor about we're born alkaline and we die acidic. So one can infer that one spends one's lifetime accumulating bad stuff that eventually kills us.
It really is about this. It's about garbage in, garbage out scenario.
Yeah.
Because as we go through life in our cells and our bodies and our organs, we have to metabolize. We have to take in food. We have to do things, and our body has to handle that. We get attacked by viruses and bacteria. Our bodies take that. Our defense and immune system take that. But as we age, those things may accumulate in our body.
Sure.
Our toxic load builds up, and that brings the acidity levels up in the body. Mm-hmm. So if our organ systems are working in a healthy state, and Eric will talk a little bit about adaptability and that in a second, but as the toxins accumulate as we get older, if our mechanisms of detoxification are not sound anymore, they break down.
Right.
Toxins it's really greatly accelerate.
So is it safe to say, though, that throughout our lifetimes, we do have, we're born with the ability to detoxify ourselves?
Absolutely.
But as we age, that ability becomes diminished.
And as a result of aging processes, our hormones and our organs fatigue over time.
So we need to sort of be conscious of our diminishing ability to detoxify ourselves and balance that off by doing exactly what?
Exercise is a good way. Eating properly, eating nutrient-rich foods. Now that's a concept, isn't it? Now, most of the foods we eat now are not nutritious, unfortunately. And if you eat nutrient-rich foods like vegetables and fresh water and all those wonderful things, we actually, our cells have a chance to take energy from that and restore itself. We get enough rest, and our life of high anxiety and cortisol excesses break our bodies down, and we can't recover as well.
But it sounds an awful lot, at least for this layman, that common sense could play an awful lot in the way we extend our lifespan and our quality of life as we age. Eric, would you agree? Just as Larry's saying, eat well, exercise, be smart about life.
You're absolutely right. I mean, you don't have to sit here and having gone to naturopathic school and chiropractic school and all these schools for all these years and get a wall full of paraphernalia to say, this is what you do to keep your health.
Right.
It is very common sense derived. And naturopathic medicine is based on the idea that your body heals itself. We don't need to add a lot of stuff. It's a matter of fact, in many cases, as Larry is saying, we have to remove some things so that the system can sort of take over on its own.
Right.
But if I can just speak to something that we're talking about these gross things. Bad lifestyle, hit my 20s, I'm going to go to the bar every night.
Mm-hmm.
there's something far more subtle that if we could become aware of, we would be able to probably reduce chronic degenerative illness by over 50%. And what it means is, rather than being outward directed to how the world, what it is you want and how you're drawn to it, to be a little more internally directed and have a sense within your body about where you're at today. Where am I? How do I feel today? Am I up? Am I down? Am I hungry? Am I hot? Am I cold? These are triggers your body, or cues rather, that your body is giving you on a 24-hour basis about where you should be. Traditional Chinese medicine comes from a history of Taoism. And the basis of Taoist thought is about balance.
Okay.
There are extremes to everything, but there always is a balance to everything. And if you can dance in the middle of that teeter-totter, you're going to have a far better chance of staying on that teeter-totter as opposed to falling off. So if you can cue into what these subtle things are, you can have a far better way of being able to live your life properly, to enjoy it, and also to have the years ahead of you in which to enjoy that.
Right.
So if I was to talk about, say, how we got ill for a sec, it's very common to talk about injury. What do you do when you hurt yourself? Well, you wince, right? You contract. And that happens with everything that's a stressor in our life. Whether someone yells at you, you start to shrink back.
Sure.
Whether you just had some bad oysters, well, you're first going to shrink, and then it's not going to go.
That's right. Yeah. Not going to end well.
So what I'm talking about is a withdrawal, a containment. At a very subtle level in our body, there's this very subtle rhythm that happens all the time. And we talked about osteopathic cranial manipulation before. But within the brain itself, there's a rhythm. And what happens is the brain expands with cerebrospinal fluid, and then it contracts and it pushes this fluid out into the lymph system. There's a bag over the whole body made of connective tissue, which we talked about before.
Right.
It's called the meninges. That stretches and that contracts. The meninges are attached inside the 22-odd bones of your skull, the second and third vertebra in your neck, and all the way down to your sacrum. So those bones all move.
Right.
They also cover every nerve that exits the spinal cord and goes into the connective tissue and fascia of every part and organ of your body. So they all move. So if we were to make what these two extremes of motions are, of expansion and contraction is like everything folding together into a fetal ball.
Right.
And expansion is like Julie Andrews in The Sound of Music, standing on the top of the mountaintop.
Right, okay.
That's happening 5 to 12 times a minute.
Right.
Everything is moving.
You hear a loud noise. Sometimes you actually duck.
Exactly.
A truck backfires and you're walking along the street. You duck. And that's a contraction. That's completely subconscious. You don't, I better duck now. You just duck. Right?
It's a natural reaction to survive. You want to get out of the way of it.
That's right.
Whatever's coming at you. The problem is, if you get hit with something and it's pretty big, you sort of stay in the contraction. If you have a car accident and you're hit from behind, you get frozen in that contraction of that position.
Right.
If you had a surgery, a C-section, you might stay contracted around the scar. These things go on and on through every aspect of life. But imagine that you start to limit the movement of the expansion and contraction, and it holds you at some point. Then you have to adapt to that. When you're young, you have lots of adaptability.
Sure, of course.
Larry, in his book, talks about how hormones are the essential life force in our body. And what's great about hormones is they start to peak in your early 20s. Isn't that the time we all feel good?
Well, right. But, of course, those of us with teenagers in the house also remember raging hormones, and they were less fun.
Right? Exactly. Except it hits you at a time in your life when those hormones are on a downspin.
That's right. What about now for boomers? Where are we at in terms of hormone levels, generally speaking?
Well, given that we've all peaked around 22 to 24.
Oh, that's sad news.
I am sorry to say that most of us boomers, and I certainly count myself in that category, are on the downward trend.
Okay.
But what does that mean? That we're talking about aging.
Right.
So there's a chronological aging. Time is going to pass. But illness doesn't necessarily have to go with aging.
Right. But then there's this whole anti-aging thing. And Dr. Larry Chen, this is an area of your specialization. And yet a lot of people will go, anti-aging? What an exercise in futility. We're aging. Look at your birth certificate. You're a day older than you were yesterday. You are aging, and you can't anti that in any way, no matter how you may wish for.
It's an unfortunate term as well. It's really age management is what we're
Aha.
looking at.
Okay.
And it really is, as Eric alluded to, chronological aging is something we can't get away from. You're born in 1950. By 2000, you're 50 years old. By 2014, you're 64 years old. You can't get away from that. But you can have biological aging, and that could be variable. Everyone's seen the person that's 30 years old that looks 60.
True.
And acts 60. You have the person that's 60 years old, acts 30, and looks 30.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about how we express those genes with our lifestyle and our environment as well.
Okay.
And quickly we'll lead into Eric's thing with the cognitive work as well, as that and when we get older, for the boomer, there's three main kinds of things we talk about. Menopause, we know about that.
Right.
That's female loss of the sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone primarily, and the hot flashes and all the symptoms that go with that, bone loss and osteoporosis. There's also andropause, which is the male menopause.
Which doesn't get talked about half as much because guys don't like to talk about stuff like that. The girls do that, but come on, we're guys, we're tough. That doesn't happen to us. Nonsense. It absolutely does.
It does. Men don't talk about it mostly because we don't have the same cycles that we have every month, like menstrual cycle.
True, right.
But what happens primarily when men hit into the andropause state in the 50s, usually late 40s, 50s, and 60s. Is really our energy starts falling. Our testosterone falls and other hormones, the growth hormone falls, DHEA falls.
Right.
When that occurs, male andropause is really a product of maybe more depression occurs, lack of energy, lack of that male drive that gets them, aggressive, moving forward and being creative. And a lot of that occurs, and because men don't talk about their emotions very much, they just go into more of a shell sometimes.
Right.
So that male is now deemed as being depressed. Mm-hmm. And he may not be. It's just as hormones have crashed. And along with the crashing of the hormones in male time, and it's very important for boomers to know this, is that he may be mood challenged, may be depressed.
Right.
He may also have, now is the time to coincident where blood pressure goes up. Blood sugars are out of control. Heart disease comes up. Obesity goes up as well.
And this is all stemming back to what source?
A lot of times it's to do with hormones, accumulation of toxins. As the hormones crash, so if you take that individual and measure their testosterone levels and it's low, you boost the testosterone levels, adjust their diet a bit, and a lot of those symptoms can go away.
So how difficult is it, Dr. Eric Posen, for a guy to show up at Integrative Naturopathic Medical Center, have some kind of test, and find out what's going on with the hormones and whether or not we need a little boost here or there? What sort of procedure is involved in determining a person's hormone levels?
Actually, the first answer to your question is it is profoundly easy to find out what that is.
Okay.
Thing is, most guys, as you say, don't want to know or have a hard time even asking the question that something is going on here.
Yeah, but if Larry's saying they're withdrawing into some kind of shell and everybody around them is labeling, he's kind of weird now, he's getting old, he's probably depressed, it's no fun getting old, and you move on. That's the end of that one. And the guy, he's comfortable, he can live with that. It's no fun, but I can live with that, I'm tough. And that's the end of it.
Exactly.
That's nuts.
It's absolutely nuts, because what happens is that person, remember the illusion I was giving to contraction and expansion? They're in a chronic contracted state.
Right.
They're depressed, they're hunched over, they have no energy to stand up, their sexual ability is compromised, everything is in the toilet. So for them to find out what's going on, if they came to us, we would begin a whole process of trying to evaluate how well are they able to expand and then also contract and come to some point of balance. We can do it through looking at chemistry levels, so we can evaluate hormone levels, and that's a very easy thing to do, either through blood, through saliva, or urine. These are
standard lab tests. Okay.
Easy way to do it. There's questionnaires. Even sometimes a questionnaire in and of itself is a way of finding out what's going on.
I'll bet.
We do questionnaires not only for hormones, but also for neurotransmitters. This is a place that very few people actually look, because neurotransmitters are the chemical manifestations of all the electrical connections going on in your brain, all the electrical activity. They are intimately tied in with hormone levels. and they are intimately tied in with every aspect of your character and your physiological manifestation in the world.
Okay, so if I go and I get this test, and one of you comes up and says, "Well, Sterling, you are old," and deteriorating.
You look good, though.
Thank you so much. Deteriorating on a daily basis, but we can help improve your quality of life because you've got a bit of a hormone deficiency here. It's pretty identifiable, and look, it says right here. So, what are you going to do? Do I take a pill every day, a hormone supplement of some kind? Dr. Chan suggests I alter my diet, eat more sensibly, more practically. What other remedies are there for if that's my only problem, basically speaking? I'm getting old, so I got a bit of a hormone loss going on. How does that get fixed?
From a straight biochemical perspective, you could probably just take a pill or a cream.
Okay.
There's that part of it.
Okay.
But that's not all of it. We're not just hormones.
I had a feeling there would be more.
So there's more. That begs the question. As a matter of fact, you can probably alter a lot of hormone levels without even taking pills or creams.
Okay. And is that a diet thing as much as anything else? Diet and exercise?
Diet is one of the key factors. There are diets that support different hormone levels in the body and also calm down other hormone levels. As a matter of fact, one of the primary causes of maladaptive aging, maybe that's a good term. I think maladaptive aging.
We'll come back to that after the break.
Is high stress.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many of your listeners have that experience.
Oh, none of us. Boomers, no stress in our lives at all.
So what's stress do to your body? Stress puts your body in a chronic state of things. Obviously, you're in a hypervigilant state.
Yeah.
You know, the old being attacked by saber-toothed tigers experience. But the other thing it does is it starts to break your body down. There's not going to be any tissue repair when you're in that accelerated hypervigilant state. Also, your immune system is going to be compromised. So if you start to address stress patterns in your life, you can change entire hormone levels in your body.
Give your body a chance to produce what it's capable of, at least.
Exactly.
And if you're so stressed out you couldn't do anything if you wanted to, you're not much good to anybody, least of all yourself.
And how are you even going to know you're stressed? That's another thing. If you live in that world 25 hours a day, this is normal. You know, I'm an investment banker. I travel all the time. I've got 3 teenagers that I'm staying up all night worrying about. This is my life. How do I know anything different?
By the way, we need to take a break here, but I got to share this with you on the matter of stress. I saw an article by a female doctor who was talking about the stress of menopause, but she was saying that one of her patients refuses to deal with the subject of hot flashes. She says, "That's my inner child playing with matches." We're back with more on Boomer Life with our guest from Integrative Naturopathic Medical Center after this quick timeout.
Canada's only weekly radio show dedicated to the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on AM 650.